Hello again. So I am back after a nap and a snack. So on this episode of Cooking with me, we're going to be cooking this time, not cocktails. We're going to be making what's called cheese and Vegemite pastry twists. Now, you might be familiar with pastry twists, like you get them at like Woolies and stuff, at your grocery store, come in like all different sorts of flavours. Anyway, so the pastry twists are just a super easy, quick, delicious snack. My mum used to make them all the time growing up. So, yeah, here they are. So our ingredients, you're going to need some puff pastry. So I use light puff pastry, reduced fat. So you need about 2 sheets of the pastry. You'll also need some Vegemite. Delicious food from the gods, I tell you. Also need some Parmesan, a sharp knife, and some milk in, ooh, there we go, milk in a saucer to brush on top of the pastry. So to start with, I have my oven preheated to about 100 and actually we're going to go up to about 180, I think. So it's preheated to 180. I have my baking tray with my paper and what's going to be my pastry brush. So to start with, I need a knife for the Vegemite. Oh. Right. So to start with, what you need to do is obviously unscrew your Vegemite and start spreading your Vegemite. So yeah, we're going to start spreading your Vegemite on the pastry. So I've got the Vegemite, as you can tell I've already dug into it, it's pretty yum. And as to how much Vegemite you want on there, I guess it depends on how strong you like your Vegemite. I like my Vegemite pretty strong. So you can see, sort of just smearing it on. Smear, smear, smear. Doo, doo, doo. It's easier to put the Vegemite, even if you do different variations of these, if your puff pastry is about room temperature and nicely defrosted, it's becomes so much easier to spread your Vegemite on. You can also do, I guess, like pizza versions, which would be like, you know, tomato paste and cheese on top. But I'm just doing this because I love. So for me, Vegemite and cheese is like the ultimate combination. So as you can see, we spread the Vegemite on. It's quite delicious. Anyway, you've got to clean the knife off because you can't waste the stuff. Oh, it's really good. So your next thing that you want to do is you're going to start sprinkling your cheese on it. Now, what you'll notice is that with the pastry, we've got one with Vegemite and one without. So the Vegemite without, the pastry without the Vegemite, there we go. That's going to be your on top pastry, right? So the next thing you want to do now is you've got to sprinkle your cheese on. Now, alright, so now we're on to, like I was saying before, putting our cheese on our Vegemite. Yeah, there we go. So I don't have, so I prefer Parmesan cheese. I love Parmesan, love the flavour, love just everything about Parmesan. But if you're wanting like an extra, I don't know, like a gooey sort of cheese, you could use like a mozzarella or something like that. So unfortunately I don't have much Parmesan because I've put it in everything. Same with Vegemite. I'm just going to use what I've got. So what you want to do is sort of just sprinkle it over. Oh, it's actually going to be plenty of Parmesan. Try and make it like an even covering if you can, but it doesn't have to be super perfect, because it's sort of just going to Okay, so we have no more cheese. Sad face. Now this is the best part. So we've got our nice Vegemite and cheese. Now what you'll notice with your puff pastry sheets is they come on like they've got a blue plastic sheeting, which is really good because it helps it stop sticking to your bench. Now these are my last 2 pastry sheets. So what I've done is sort of like a cutting board, like an alternative cutting board, is I've used the cardboard from cardboard packaging just as a makeshift cutting board, so that way I don't have to have all that extra cleaning up to do. Cleaning up is the worst when you cook. If you look, you'll see we've got a nice even covering of the cheese. Now what we need to do is we need to take this spare pastry and flip it over. Hang on, I'm going to put this down so I can do it better, proper. Okay, so like I said, you need to put this on top of this. Think of it as like a delicious sandwich. So when you do it, try and make sure the edges line up a bit, because it just seems to make it, it's just easier, so it just becomes delicious goodness. Now in terms of pastry, I generally use reduced fat puff pastry because it's just it's less fat, it's all like a little less calories. The flavour I find is a bit better when you use reduced fat puff pastry. Alright, so like I said, I was talking about the blue plastic. Now, so what you can do now that you've got your puff pastry, Vegemite, cheese sandwich of deliciousness, you take that top blue layer off, but notice how on the bottom one I've still got that plastic sheet, because like I said, it just stops it from sticking to stuff. Now we've got our knife. This is the best part. So when you want to, when you're doing these, you can either opt for like chunky slices, or you can opt for like little skinny slices. Now the chunky slices, they will take a bit longer to cook and they won't puff up as much as your thinner slices. So what we're going to do, and also if you're looking to make it go further, so if you do thinner slices, it's obviously going to go a lot further. Now make sure your knife is nice and sharp. This is a, I'm pretty sure it's my ex's knife actually. Was an apprentice butcher, but I bought it, so technically it's my knife now. But you want to make sure your knife is nice and sharp. And like I said, we're going to go, this time we're going to opt for thin slices. I'm just eating the cheese, don't mind me. Okay, so my slices are going to be about 1.5 centimeters. So just slice and slice, and we just keep slicing. But one thing you need to be super careful of when you're slicing is that your hard work doesn't come unstuck. So I just realised I said so a lot. So back to the point. What you'll find is as your puff pastry gets more room temperature, it sort of starts to become quite sticky. So and it sort of comes away from the deliciousness that's underneath. Now, when you're slicing, the best tip is, so try and make it straight, but if it's not straight, that's okay. I mean, we're not master chefs, we are home cooks. So even then, even if you can't cut it straight, it's still going to turn out incredible. So I'll just keep cutting them away. So when you're doing your cuts, you've got to make sure they're nice and smooth. You just do little cuts at a time, sort of like a dot-to-dot puzzle. Alright, so what we have now is our beautifully sliced slices. Now when you're putting it down on the baked paper, it's generally pretty good to have sort of like spray oil down. That way it sort of just stops it from, I hope that tray is going to be big enough, stops it from sticking. So the spray I love to use is canola spray. It's pretty good. I like it. It goes pretty far, and it's pretty cheap, like maybe $3-4 a spray can. And I do a lot of cooking, and one of those lasts me maybe about 2 months. So, but it all depends on how much you use. So we've got our, there we go. I'm an amateur at this, sorry. I'm an amateur with camera angles, like I just have no idea. Which is why I'm still using my phone instead of my laptop, because the phone's just easier to navigate. Anyway, so now we're on to the actual fun part, which is twisting them. So what you want to do, you want to grab your first little strip of, it broke. It's okay. Do not panic. Do not panic, Anna. Do not panic, viewers. So what you'll notice, my pastry is starting to crack because it's a bit dry. It's been sitting in the freezer. So when you want to store puff pastry, the best way to store it, I learnt this from my mum, is in a clip seal bag. Now you're going to have to get one of those like real big buggers to store your pastry, because that's going to stop it from drying out in the freezer. So the reason why this is cracking, as you can see, like it doesn't change the flavour at all, but the reason why it's cracking is because it's been living in my freezer, not in a clip seal bag. So yeah, so what you want to do is take the ends, you sort of just twist them like that, and then you put them down on the baked paper. So as to how many twists you do, up to you, completely up to you. If you want to have like super curly, like piss your pants roller coaster type curls, you can, like that. Screw being on that roller coaster, and no thank you. Have you seen Final Destination? It doesn't end well. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a variety of like big ones and little ones. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a range of like super tiny twists and like super big twists as well, just so we can sort of see how they both turn out. And then you can also decide whether you prefer, you know, the big twists or the skinny twists. Okay, so I've sort of skipped through the twisting part, but I ran out of space on one of my oven trays, so I had to get the other oven tray. It's gonna be a lot of washing up, man. Don't like washing up. Anyway, so what you can see, they've done. Ooh, get back there. Right, scratch that. New idea. We've got some different twists. So we've got a couple of like the big twists, we've got a couple of the little twists, and what you'll notice is that I've also done a variety between the big like thicker ones and the thinner ones. I think I said this at the start, that so basically what you can do is, so you can decide when you make this whether you want to do the big ones or the little ones. So yeah, you can decide which of the ones you want to do, whether you want to do the thicker cut ones or the thinner cut ones. Now the next thing we're going to do is, obviously we want our pastry to become nice and brown. So when you go to coat your pastry, you can use an egg or you can use milk. My mum, she's watching this, Mum, it used a combination of milk and egg, and it sort of just gets that nice real brown colour on it. So generally if you want to do an egg wash, it'll create shine, but milk encourages browning. So now we're at the super fun part. So our oven's nice and hot, really toasty. We're going to put our milk on top of our pastry. Now the best thing you can use for this is a pastry brush. But if you don't have a pastry brush, oh, Anna, I don't have a pastry brush, what do I do? That's okay, I've got you sorted, because I don't have a pastry brush yet. So what you want to do, you want to get a piece of alfoil, aluminum foil. I'm sure it could double up as a hat a bit later as well, once you've had a few of those cocktails. So you sort of just want to fold it up, I guess, sort of make a, almost like a brush type thing. Alright, so what's going to happen is, what I'm going to do, don't mind my English today, goodness gracious, so this alfoil can basically, it can double up as sharpening your scissors as well. But what I'm going to do is, try and show as best as I can, I'm just going to make little tears in the foil. So what it's going to do, it's sort of going to act a bit like a brush almost. You can also do the same with baked paper. I did it with baked paper, but I just wasn't, just didn't turn out as good. So ideally it'd be a lot easier if you, oh, my phone's going flat, use scissors, but because I can't find my scissors, I'm just going to tear it with my hands. So once you have your nice little thing, it sort of looks like a bit like those weird, you know those paper crowns you get at Christmas? So no, not that, a fortress, sort of looks like a fortress. So I don't know if you can see, you can sort of see there's like little tears and stuff. So what you're going to do, you're going to fold it in half, and you're going to fold it, yeah, so just in half. And so what you'll, and sort of fan them out a bit, and what you'll see, it looks a bit messy, but it sort of acts like a pastry brush. So here's something that I prepared earlier. Some milk, just a little sauce, like whatever milk. So today we are going, spilt it. We are going for browning over shine, though there is nothing better than shiny golden brown puff pastry. Oh, it's what it is, the stuff that dreams are made of. I'm getting really fed up with my camera. It just like cuts me off mid-sentence and I'm like, can you not? Anyway, so like I said, we're gonna go, so the golden brown shiny pastry is the stuff of dreams, and it tastes absolutely divine, and just the crunch level is amazing. But for laziness and tiredness, we are just going to do milk to go on top. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is we're going to put our milk on the pastry. So as I said, I've got my little pastry brush here, and I've got my milk in a little container. So what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to do with these ones actually, sort of just try and brush it over as best as you can with like chunky alfoil, but try and refrain from like pouring it all over, because that just won't, it's just not ideal. Just not ideal. But this makes for a pretty good fill-in substitute until you manage to go get your own pastry brush. So yeah, we'll just keep going. Alright, so milk is all on the pastry, and our precious little darlings are all ready to go into the oven. Now, a fair warning with using the alfoil brush, unless you chop it finely, like cut your little notches finely enough. There we go. And unless you cut your notches finely enough, it sort of becomes a bit blobbish. So we'll see how these turn out. But the next time I do this, I will have a pastry brush. So with these babies, you sort of want to put them in the oven, obviously. Yeah, you're going to put them in the oven. As for time frames, I'm honestly really shocking with time frames. Sort of just put them in there and then come and check. I just put them in the oven and then come back and check on them. And when they are done to my likeness, to how I like them, then I pull them out. But today I will aim to get an actual time stamp frame. Now they're ready. Well, they're not ready, they're ready to cook. So like you saw, I didn't have enough space to put them both on the same rack. So if you're in that situation where you've got you don't have enough space in your oven to put them on the same rack, what you do is you generally just go back and check on them and then swap them around. So if they're ones up the top are cooking faster, then you swap them with the ones on the bottom. But then it all depends on your oven as well. Like it's a bit touch and go really. But yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so it's been about 7 or 8 minutes since I put them in. They're smelling delicious. So we're going to open the oven and have a sneak peek. So as you can see, the ones we got on the bottom are cooking a bit faster than the ones up top. Now my oven's a bit wonky. It's got a hot spot and it's got cold spots, and every oven has these. It's just you got to try and work out where your hot spots are, where your cold spots are, and yeah, just turn them around and make sure they are cooking evenly. So what I've done is I've swapped the bottom. So we've got our ones which were up the top, now on the bottom, ones are at the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is I guess one of the straight differences you can see when you don't put your milk or, there we go, or egg wash on consistently. So if you might remember, I use like an alfoil type brush. So what you'll see is you're going to see, I guess, the difference between consistency of like browning and all of that. So if we pull out this one, you'll see, you can easily see which parts did get a lot of milk. So you've got some parts in here, over here as well, and you can also see the parts, so I think that in here, that didn't get a lot of milk coverage. So basically, important thing is basically, if you can, get a pastry brush, but if not, like, there are other ways you can make do. Like I said, I've done one with baking paper, I did that one with alfoil, but yeah, so if you don't have a pastry brush, don't panic, there are other options, it's not the end of the world. Or is it? Ooh. Anyway, back to the deliciousness. So I'm actually pretty happy with this top lot, because like you can see, like I pointed out before, you got some brown and then you got some white patches. But one thing you run the risk of when you it's really hot, try and keep them in longer to brown all of them, you run the risk of burning. And let's be honest, no one likes burnt things. I know there's the whole waste not, want not, but it's just not fun eating burnt things. So here we go. we have Parmesan and Vegemite pastry twists. Once again, I would like to say a huge shout out to my mum for, yeah, just teaching me how to make these growing up. They're really good. Another alternative you can do, as well as the tomato paste and cheese, you could do like Italian herbs, dried Italian herbs and cheese. But ideally what I'll do over the coming weeks is just do those different variations for you so you can see what they turn out like and whether it, you know, you'd think that'd be delicious enough to recreate. So now we just gotta wait. Like I said, we just gotta wait for them to cool down now before we can sample them. So what you want to do is just leave them there to cool down, because your biggest enemy with cooked puff pastry is moisture. So if you think about, say, if you put these, oven's hot, fresh out of the oven pastry twists in a container and shove them straight in the fridge, all the condensation and all that is going to just ruin your puff pastry, and you're going to go from nice crispy puff pastry to soggy disgusting. It's not consistency. So yes, so we'll give them about 5 minutes to cool down and then we'll come back and check on them. Alright, so enough time has passed. We are going to sample. So straight away you can sort of just see the crispy ones. See this? Oh, look at that. That crisp, that crunch. Okay, so it's almost like a dueling stick. I challenge you to a duel. Really flaky too. Just a heads up. So now we're going to sample this. Actually really good. Not as good as Mum used to make, but I'd say they're pretty close. So there we go. We've got Vegemite and cheese pastry twists. I forgot to add, sorry, before we do the piece out, is the best way to store these babies, because, you know, there's nothing worse than cooking them and then not storing them correctly. So the best way to store them is in a clip seal container. So as you can see, what I've done is I've had to break them up, so break them in half, because otherwise they wouldn't fit. So yeah, clip seal container, grab a lid, pop the lid on, and then keep it in your fridge. So normally you can get about 3 or 4 days out of these, but like I said, they're delicious. So you're probably not even going to last 2 days. Perfect for just snacks, whether you want to do lunches, you got people coming over, you know, super versatile, easy, super easy, and delicious. Until next time, peace out.